it's Zena, your best friend who loves horror. Black horror has always been featured throughout the genre. However, it doesn't always receive the recognition it deserves. In today's video, I'll be sharing my top 5 essential black horror movies. These films will of course have terror, hauntings, demons, decaying houses with secret passageways, but also it will either be directed, written, or starring a black person. I was actually inspired to create this video from a curly girl at the movies. She has a video called Top 10 Black Horror Movies. It's so awesome. She's awesome. Her hair is flawless and so is her skin. I love her taste in movies. So I'm going to leave a link to her channel below, and particularly to that video that you guys really need to check out. The first movie I'd like to discuss is Son of Ingagi from 1940. An ape-man turns on the woman who brought him back from Africa and ends up killing her. This film, it was written by Spencer Williams and based on his own short story, House of Horror. So the reason why I had to include this one on the list is because this is literally the first science fiction horror feature to actually have an all-black cast. This movie, it did not age well. It was literally made in the 40s, released in the 40s. So it's just like, it's very dated. But with the year that we're in right now, like looking back at it with all of the challenges that they faced, you just cannot help but to have like a deeper appreciation for it. You can feel the spirit within that film. Like you can feel what they wanted to accomplish. So the next one I like to talk about is The People Under the Stairs from 1991. Two adults and a juvenile break into a house occupied by a brother and sister and their stolen children. There, they must fight for their lives. This one is one of the most energetic, unpredictable comedy horrors that I've ever seen in my life. I've always felt that this one was like a modern fairy tale. You have a 13-year-old boy named Fool, aka Poindexter. He lives in the slums with his extremely sick mother and his siblings, and sadly they're about to be evicted from their home. But then an opportunity, for some quick cash comes their way. Fool, he takes this opportunity so he can try to help his family. This opportunity involves a psychotic couple who are also siblings, and they refer to each other as mommy and daddy.
Oh my God!
This one is a very unique horror movie because it touches on a lot of strong points. There's a good amount of social commentary. There's also a battle between the filthy rich and the super racist landlords, aka mommy and daddy. This one is essential because of Fool. Fool is a hero. I feel like Fool is very similar to Kevin from Home Alone. Something that I've always thought was really cool about this film, Wes Craven, he directed this by the way, Wes Craven could have focused on Alice, but instead he decided to focus on Fool. To me, this film has always showed it doesn't matter where you come from, the color of your skin, how much money you have. Because Fool is extremely smart and very brave with everything that he went through from the start of this film. But you know what? There's just so much to unpack, with this movie. And I feel like I could go on. If you want me to do like a cult classic talking about this movie, unpacking it, let me know. I would love to. This has always been one of my absolute favorite films ever. Okay, so moving right along, we're at number 3, so I would love to talk about Night of the Demons from 1988. While teenagers hold a Halloween seance in an old funeral parlor to scare their friends. I love Night of the Demons. Any chance I have to talk about it, I'm going to talk about it. So you're probably like, Zena, oh my gosh, why is this one on the list? This one is essential because of Roger. Roger is one of the 2 survivors of the horrific massacre at Hull House. To me, Roger has always been horror goals. Yes, because he survived, but also because he's very relatable. So he did something not so bright by going to this Halloween party because, all his friends, they ditched the dance and they wanted to go to this Halloween party at this well-known haunted funeral home. And even though he didn't participate in one of their Halloween games, which just so happens to be a seance, he was still there. He was still present. So guilty by association. He did try to warn his friends, about the evil in the house. And of course they dismissed it because, they just want to party. Rock and roll. I just love his speech when he talks about his daddy being a preacher.
I don't care what you all think.
My daddy was a preacher. And I know better than to be in here fooling with this stuff. This is a house of the dead. And I'm getting out now before it's too late.
There's a particular scene that always stood out to me where, there are two characters hugging, and instead of Roger telling them, hey, Demon Angela is coming our way, he doesn't say anything. He just runs. And I have to be honest with you, I would be that friend. I feel like I'm Roger and Roger is me. He is me and I am him. We are one. There's even another scene where Roger jumped through a window because he didn't want the demons to get him.
You won't get me!
That man's a hero. Like and subscribe. Alright guys, so we made it to number 4 and we're going to be talking about Eve's Bayou from 1997. This Southern Gothic classic centers on Eve, a 10-year-old girl who witnesses her father, Dr. Louis Batiste, the most well-respected color doctor in an upscale Creole-American community in Louisiana, having an affair despite his beautiful and gracious wife. When Eve shares this information to her big sister Cicely, who has a very close relationship with her father, her sister tries to discourage Eve's perception of things. I first watched this movie when I was about 10 years old, and I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't quite understand it, but I did know that it was different from the other black movies that I remember watching around that time. And that's exactly why Eve's Bayou is on this list. This film gave us diversity from the other types of black horror movies that we were receiving back in the 90s. The stories that we were receiving were more of a impoverished type of perspective, while Eve's Bayou, this one was more of wealth. There's a family with deep-rooted issues. And not only that, but there's a family curse, there's voodoo, there's secrets. Eve's Bayou deals candidly with the consequences of your own actions. From the father's infidelities, the mother's perfect life she's trying to portray to everyone, to Cicely's secret, to the aunt and the dead bodies, and then even with Eve, one rash yet emotionally driven decision will change things forever. There's just so much to unpack about it. It's just such a beautiful Southern Gothic film that I highly recommend to everyone if you have not seen this one. In general, sometimes it's hard to accept reality. Many of us, we often lie to ourselves, to each other, by creating false narratives to make ourselves feel better. Cicely, she ultimately did that with Eve when she was trying to convince Eve that, oh no, that their father, that he wasn't having an affair. Casey Lemons directed and wrote Eve's Bayou. Clearly, she pushed so many boundaries despite it taking 4 years for her to make this film, to actually film it. She received a lot of pushback, unfortunately, but I'm so glad that she stuck to her guns. I'm so glad that she just kept on pushing and that we have this film today. The layering in it is beyond top notch. The performances are amazing. The powerful visuals, throughout this film, there's supernatural and religious themes that's weaved throughout the entire film. One can only hope to be this awesome. I really do hope that Casey comes back to the horror genre. Please bless our eyeballs. Okay guys, so we made it to our final one and we're going to be talking about Tales from the Hood 1995. In this horror comedy anthology, a funeral director tells 4 strangers tales of horror with an African-American focus on 3 drug dealers he traps in his place of business. This movie, it follows the standard anthology format similar to Tales from the Crypt. However, it addresses vital issues that are still going on today, such as police brutality, child abuse, racism, and gang violence, which is exactly why this film is an essential to watch. All the stories, they have something important to say. I can honestly say I feel like this film is perfect. The messages within this film are, again, relevant and they're clear. They're clear to comprehend, but they don't wash out horror too much. You still know that this is like a horror film. Despite it being, made 26 years ago, the tales are still very much impactful. Plus, the funeral director, Mr. Sims, he is completely terrifying. His line, "This ain't no funeral home," has been pure nightmare fuel for me since I was a child. That's my list of essential black horror movies. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I'm interested in knowing, which movies would be on your list. Feel free to comment below. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. And I'll see you next time.
I don't care what you all think. My daddy was a preacher. And I know better than to be in here fooling with this stuff. This is a house of the dead. And I'm getting out now before it's too late.
Like and subscribe.